After her husband replaced her with his mistress for the vacation she paid for, Isabel stared at the email with disbelief. The subject line read, "Final itinerary, tropical escape for two." Her name wasn't on it. Instead, her husband David had updated the guest list, replacing her with someone named Clarissa Lane. She didn't need to Google the name. She already knew who Clarissa was, the mistress. Isabel had planned this vacation meticulously. She spent months researching resorts, arranging flights, and using her own bonus check to cover the cost. It was supposed to be a celebration of their 10th wedding anniversary. But instead of champagne on the beach and stargazing from a private balcony, she was now watching her marriage unravel on the screen of her laptop. David hadn't even bothered to tell her. She found out by accident when the travel agency copied her on the final itinerary. At first, the pain was unbearable. Her throat tightened, her hands trembled, and tears welled up uncontrollably. But after a long night of crying, something inside her shifted. The sadness began to turn into something else. Focus. Clarity. A strange calm washed over her as she closed the laptop and began to form a new plan. She wasn't going to beg, confront, or cry anymore. She was going to evolve. The next morning, Isabel called the resort herself. "Hi," she said sweetly. "This is Isabel Green. I'd like to cancel one of the names on the reservation. There's been a change." The receptionist asked politely for details, and Isabel explained with the kind of grace that only comes from deep resolve. By the time the call ended, Clarissa Lane was no longer listed on the room booking. "Oh, and could you please arrange a complimentary bottle of wine to greet the guest? He'll be arriving solo now." She ended the call and began phase 2. For years, Isabel had set her dreams aside. She had passed on opportunities, turned down girls' trips, skipped yoga retreats, and poured herself into a life that no longer felt like her own. David had become her center, and now that center had collapsed. It was time to reclaim herself. She took a week off work, packed her bags, and boarded a different flight, this one to Greece. It wasn't the tropical island she'd planned, but it was the solo adventure she never thought she had the nerve to take. While David flew off to a beachfront resort, unaware his mistress had been booted from the room, Isabel was sipping wine on a cliffside terrace in Santorini, watching the sun dip into the sea. For the first time in years, she felt like she was breathing for herself. Back at the resort, David was furious. "What do you mean she's not on the reservation?" He barked at the front desk clerk. "I'm sorry, sir. The booking was updated. Only one guest is listed under the reservation." David tried to reach Isabel. He called, texted, and emailed. But she didn't answer. Not out of spite, but because she had left that entire version of her life behind, at least for now. Instead, she wandered the streets of Oya, chatted with artists, tried every local dessert she could find, and filled a journal with sketches and thoughts she hadn't let surface in years. She met a couple from Ireland who invited her to a sailing excursion. She accepted. She danced on the deck of a boat with strangers who felt like friends. The sea wind wrapped around her like a blessing, and for the first time in a decade, she didn't feel like a wife holding everything together. She felt like Isabel. When she returned to the U.S., she wasn't the same. David was waiting at their shared apartment. He looked nervous, awkward, and completely lost. "I can explain," he began. She raised her hand gently. "You don't need to." "I was going to tell you," he continued, "but I didn't know how. It just happened." "No," she said. "You made it happen. You made choices." He looked away, ashamed. "I thought we were drifting. I didn't think you cared anymore." "I cared," she said. "I cared so much I forgot how to care about myself." He looked up. She wasn't yelling, she wasn't crying. That scared him more than anything else. "I went to Greece," she said. "I walked alone. I met people. I laughed. I wrote again. David blinked. You wrote? Yes, she said. I remembered who I am. He reached for her hand. She didn't take it. Isabel, I made a mistake. She smiled softly, not bitter, not cruel. So did I. I spent too long being loyal to someone who was waiting for an excuse to betray me. What are you saying? I'm saying you can keep the resort. You can keep Clarissa, if she'll still talk to you, but you can't keep me. In the months that followed, Isabel moved into her own place. She joined a writing group, published essays online, and even signed a small book deal. Her story, about betrayal, rebirth, and the power of reclaiming your voice, began to resonate with readers. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. She traveled more: Barcelona, Bali, Kyoto. Each place added a new layer to her identity, not as David's wife, but as Isabel Green, the woman who rebuilt her life from ash and memory, and who learned to see herself not as someone broken, but someone reborn. 1 year later, she sat on a rooftop cafe in Lisbon, laptop open, finishing her manuscript. The final line read, after her husband replaced her with his mistress for the vacation she paid for, she didn't fall apart. She found herself. And that was worth every lost promise. She hit save, closed the laptop, and looked out at the orange-pink sky stretching over the city. Her phone buzzed with a message from the Irish couple she'd met in Greece. They were in town and wanted to meet for dinner. Isabel smiled. She had places to go, people to meet, a life to live, and she would never again let anyone else write her ending.